Okay, good morning, everyone. We are going to start our webinar today. So I am Sabrina McPerez. I'm with the Amarillo Economic Development Corporation, and we're hosting today's webinar as part of our biannual Build Your Talent Toolbox series. Our goal at the Amarillo EDC is to help our local employers recruit and retain the right talent, as well as get our young people excited to live and work here. We've covered topics in the past like engaging high school students, the hiring process and how to hire the right the first time, and then work values, work culture, and now we are addressing recruitment and how it has been impacted by the pandemic. So real quick to start off, a lot of you, what you're going to hear today is about the importance of quality of life, rolling out the red carpet for talent, and being accessible online, particularly in a season where in-person encounters are much fewer. It's critical to make your company and job positions available to audiences virtually. And if you haven't already heard about Take Root in Amarillo, I just wanted to let you know that at the Amarillo EDC, we do have some really awesome free resources for you as an employer. So we wanted to help answer the question, why would I want to work or live in Amarillo? So Take Root in Amarillo is an excellent tool for you to utilize in your recruitment efforts. It has fresh, updated, relevant content to what outside talent is needing in order to make a decision to live and work in our area. These are just some examples of the content that you can utilize through Take Root in Amarillo, a living wage job board to post your jobs and allow us at the Amarillo EDC to advertise to a larger pool of candidates. Additionally, we have a public internship board and anything you would need to show what our quality of life looks like. We do want you guys to be using this, and we just wanted to make sure that you're aware of this free resource, and I'll give you a quick snapshot of what you can be sharing to future prospects for your organization.
People have some misconceptions about West Texas, and I'm here to tell you that yes, we do have a few cowboys out here.
But we also have a state-of-the-art science museum, some killer art galleries,
the second largest canyon in America,
a symphony, an opera, a ballet company, and a rising jazz culture.
So we've got a beautiful new ballpark downtown, and we're bringing minor league baseball to the heart of the city.
Over on historic Route 66, you'll find a string of lively bars. The Golden Light has been serving up sizzling burgers since the 1940s. Next door, the Golden Light Cantina hosts some of the most adventurous acts in the country.
Paladero Canyon, just outside Amarillo, features some of the most jaw-dropping panoramas you'll find anywhere.
Wolfland is the place to trick-or-treat at Halloween or take a carriage ride at Christmas. On the west side of the city is Town Square Village. Here you'll find a movie theater, upscale restaurants, ultra-modern spas and salons, and an ice cream parlor.
You wouldn't expect that in the center of the city on the high plains, students have access to hands-on equipment rarely seen at the university or research level.
Amarillo entrepreneurs are perhaps most proud of our local economy. We're consistently ranked among the best cities in the state when it comes to unemployment rate.
Amarillo has 2 major hospitals, 2 large colleges, an energy company, a fiberglass plant, and a helicopter factory.
Come check out the way we do business.
Come check out our rich educational opportunities.
Come and check out my town, and I think you'll find Amarillo is a great city to take root.
So that's just one of our Take Root videos. We have others focused on young professional life, as well as housing, education, entrepreneurship. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. And if you have any questions or want more updates, that's our website to get it. Now we get to move on to some of our awesome speakers today. We are going to start with Rebecca Gehman from DCI. Some of you may recognize her from our last event in February of this year, which seems like much longer than 8 months ago, but COVID skews all sense of time. So Rebecca and DCI really help us see the stats and trends on how talent is making decisions on where they live and work. And a lot of her data has been heightened because of the pandemic. Then we'll move on to Lisa Frank, who has direct hands-on experience with both job seekers and companies as a national recruitment partner and career coach. She has seen the shift in recruiting since the pandemic really began, and now can truly see how recruitment will probably never be the same again going forward. So Looking forward to both of them. Both speakers will be available for questions after their presentations, which will not take up the full hour. So I encourage you to stay through the end so you can ask your specific questions about what talent is looking for you from you as an employer. So you can submit a question at any time in the chat section if you would like. And so Rebecca, I will pass that off to you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Sabrina. And thank you everyone for being here today and having me here today. As Sabrina mentioned, it does feel like more than just a few months ago. It feels like years ago, but it was actually still 2020 when I had the great pleasure of being in Amarillo and presenting our 2019 research to folks there. And I remember I had the best time in February. I had the best steak of my life just walking around the downtown area. And I'm just so grateful I got that experience right before March when all this craziness happened. So thank you, Amarillo, for that. So as Sabrina mentioned, we did present our 2019 research to you in February. Today, we're talking about our latest research, which was issued in 2020. The company that I work for, DCI, we are a place marketing firm. So we are not HR or recruiter experts. That's what Lisa is here for, but we are place marketing experts. We market places to attract business investment, visitors, and talent. And even despite this pandemic, with the unemployment rates changing so drastically, we are still surprisingly hearing from companies and communities, I still need talent. We're still hiring. We still can't find the right people we need. We still need more people to move here. So really what we're talking about today is what makes talent tick. And since 2017, we've done national research to understand how do people choose jobs and locations. So I'm going to share just a few snippets from that research on that, which was issued in June 2020, so in the height of the pandemic. And you'll see how some things stayed the same and some things have certainly changed. So the first finding, which we were very happy to see, is that despite the pandemic, people are more open to job relocation than ever. In fact, when we compared the data we got this year versus 2019, we saw a 12% increase in those who said, yes, I would be willing to relocate for a job opportunity. So what this means for you all as HR executives and recruiters is that now is the time to strike. People are hungry for jobs and they're curious about new locations. We did want to see how many people already did move because of the pandemic, and that number was very small. Just 5% said that they moved because of the pandemic. But the good news is that you have a huge chunk of people who have their radars open, they're looking for new places, and now is really the time that they're thinking about it. So there's still a chance to capture people. On top of that, we wanted to understand, well, what type of place are you most interested in moving to post COVID-19? And we were very surprised to see that, you know, large urban didn't necessarily take a huge hit like the headlines are saying. Cities are not dead, but what we are seeing is that there is increased interest in suburban, which was the leading response, and an increased interest in rural. 27% said that rural would be their ideal location. And when we actually looked even further at the breakout of that, we found that actually young people are most interested in rural, ages 18 to 34. So the takeaway here is that no matter what exact location your company is in, you should be marketing a variety because every type of talent is interested in different types of locations. And Sabrina, I thought the video you just showed did that so well. You showed things that were a little more dense. You showed things that were wide open spaces. You want to show that there's something for everyone in Amarillo. We also know that because of this pandemic, more than half of the US workforce, according to our survey, is currently working from home. But we care less about what's happening right now. We want to know what's happening in the future. What does talent want long term? And in terms of what they want a mix. 38% of talent said they would like a mix of working from home or in the office. 37% said they would like to work from home full time, and 25% said they would like to be in the office full time. So what does this mean for your jobs, what you market? Well, if you're only marketing remote work jobs, you're missing out on a huge percent that does want to get in the office in some capacity. And if you're only focused on in-office jobs, you're missing out on a lot of the workforce that wants that flexibility. So that's really the key term here, is that make sure you're offering flexibility. That is what talent is concerned about right now. We also, like every year, wanted to understand what are the top factors people look for when considering a new job, because jobs at the end of the day are the #1 driver of relocation decisions. And year after year, this year was no different, money talks. The #1 factor people look for in a job is salary. That is followed by work-life balance, company benefits, meaningful work. And I circled location here because that number, and this was on a scale of 1 to 10, actually increased this year. So location of the job is more important now than ever, despite remote work. So yes, people have the ability to work from wherever they want, but talent still wants to know about, well, where is this company located and what does that location offer to me? So speaking of locations, every year we also want to understand what does talent look for in a community, in a location when they're sizing it up. And just like a job, when it comes to a location, talent still cares about the money. So the value they're getting out of the location. Cost of living, housing cost, housing availability. These have been the same 3 top factors since 2017, and it has not changed because of the pandemic. People also want to know about alternative job opportunities in the location. So if you're recruiting them for one position in Amarillo, they want to know, well, if this doesn't work out, or if I want to change careers down the road, where else can I pivot to in the region? Or if I'm bringing my spouse or my partner, what type of career can they have in the region? So I know this is tough to hear, but it's not just about marketing your own job, it's about marketing other companies' jobs too, and the economy overall. We also wanted to show you the second set of top factors. So as you can see, the lowest, which is not low, 6 on a scale of 1 to 10 is still pretty important, to the highest factor, which is a 7+, we wanted to show that these factors are still important as well. And what you see circled are actually factors that have increased in importance since 2019. So public transportation, walkability, arts and cultural amenities, nightlife, active social scene. We expected that with the pandemic, with social distancing, that these numbers would have tanked, because that makes logical sense. If people can't access these things, why would they increase in importance? So what this is really telling us is that talent is really optimistic about the future. And even if you're recruiting them to live and work in Amarillo right now, and maybe they can't access all of these things to the fullest right now, they're still thinking about these when they're making their decisions. So that's why I was, again, really happy to see in that video Sabrina just showed, you are talking about these things that people can experience long-term. We also wanted to understand, how do people form impressions about locations in the first place? Because it's going to be tough to get people to apply for jobs in Amarillo if they don't even know about the location in the first place, or they don't know about the economy and the companies there. And this year we saw an increase in internet research, which makes a lot of sense. People are online now quite a bit. They're going to Google, they're going to social media to find out what locations are great for housing and for jobs right now. We also were really surprised to see that even though travel is pretty non-existent these days, people still rely on that firsthand experience. About 60% of talent said they need firsthand experience to form an impression. So what this means for you is that whether you inspire people to come for a safe getaway, or whether you just roll out the red carpet for them in some virtual way, it's really key that you kind of hold talent's hand and give them at least the closest thing possible to a firsthand experience, because that's going to be the key to them in making an ultimate decision. Word of mouth is also important. So as much as possible, connecting talent with people who are already in the region, other potential employees at your company, other ambassadors of the region is really key. We also found in our survey this year that 82% are willing to undergo training. And we were actually really surprised and happy to see that not only is talent willing to undergo training, they're willing to relocate to access training, and they're actually willing to invest their own money in training. So what this tells us is that it is not just about marketing the job, it's about marketing the career path. There are industries right now that are decimated and not coming back for a long time. Now is the time that we really need to tell talent, hey, in Amarillo, we have industries that are actually growing right now, and we have the training that can get you there as well. So a few top takeaways here from our research. First and foremost, talent is more willing to relocate than ever. If you have been considering, or if you are thinking about or already kind of looking at external markets, now is the time to get your message out there loud and clear, especially to those regional markets where people are laid off. You want to let them know that, hey, we are still hiring in Amarillo. Number two, yes, a lot of us are working remote right now, but we shouldn't put all our eggs in the remote basket. And that is because talent, even though they're using remote work as maybe a permission slip to go to different locations, try different communities right now, they eventually want to get rooted in a community. They want to know what employers are there long term. They want to get connected in some way. So keep that in mind. Offer the flexibility, yes, to get them in the door, but at some point you will need to market them on the location. And that brings us to number three. As we saw, firsthand experience is still so important. We need to be doing everything possible right now to virtually sell the region. So things like the videos that kind of give you a picture and a glimpse of what life is like, website materials, connecting people, even with Zoom calls to people who live in the region. Anything you can do to really make talent feel like they have been hugged and held and are sold on the region. But keep in mind, as much as you could talk about amenities, arts, etc., it comes down to the money. So talk about salary, and if your salaries are lower than other markets, talk about other values like housing, taxes. What is talent going to take home at the end of the day, living and working in Amarillo versus anywhere else? And number four, let's make sure we are connecting to people who have ties to Amarillo. People want to be close to friends and family. And from our research, we saw that was a top factor people consider both in jobs and also in locations. So now is a time that people who maybe have ties to the city or to the region or even to the state might be saying, now is probably a good time for me to get back to Texas. Where is a job I can get in that area? It's also a great time to really let those know who are laid off that you are hiring. And if you offer training, make that loud and clear. And that really brings us to the last point, takeaway number 5 here. Back in March, we heard from companies, gosh, I could hire dozens of welders right now or software engineers. I just can't seem to find them. Fast forward now, several months later, they're still saying, I can't find enough welders. I can't find enough software engineers. We need to build the pipeline. We need to market training. If in March, if we had marketed training opportunities, think of where those companies would be today. They would have the talent they need. So keep that in mind, that really the communities that focus on people who are open to changing industries, changing careers, we think are really going to win the talent wars. So with that, that's a little bit about what talent looks for in jobs and locations. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Frank, who is on the front lines, both with talent and companies, who can speak to what's happening now from a recruiting perspective.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Sabrina, for having me. Give me a moment so I can share my screen.
Again, if you have any questions, you can add them in the chat right now, and we'll get to them after Lisa's presentation.
Are you able to see? Yeah?
Yes, just make it full screen and it'll be golden.
Apologies. Not really sure how to do that.
If you go to slideshow, play
Here we go. Okay.
from current slide, whichever one it is.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what that's doing there, but we will just go to the next slide. So Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing all of the research. A lot of what you have shared really echoes what I hear on the front lines. And I have the benefit of speaking directly with talent and hiring managers every day to get a feel for what's really happening and how people are really feeling. And sometimes we sit back and we look at data and we're like, is that really happening? And so much of what you discussed, I was taking notes because I want to expand upon as I'm talking, because that a lot of it is really truly what is happening in the field and with people personally. So how has the pandemic affected recruitment? We all know that unemployment, obviously, as Rebecca said, some industries have been completely decimated. Unemployment across the board, it's tough out there for a lot of people, and it's tough out there for people who have very strong backgrounds and very skilled, and the competition is extremely high. And people, I mean, we have to remember that unemployment was so low 9 months ago, 10 months ago. And we went from being a strong candidates market to an employer's market overnight. And usually there's a little bit of a transition with that. And this really happened. People were going from a place of strength where I'm marketable, I can have any job that I want, and I'm in control, to all of a sudden being one of many out there. And talent themselves have had to really tweak the ways that they're marketing themselves. And they're feeling it. Even, I was on the phone with a client this morning, and he has a tremendous background at really large technology companies, brand names, and he has been rejected or ignored in the interview process consistently. I'm like in the BBC video where the kid comes in while they're doing an interview. This is working from home. So with the pandemic also, there are a lot of unexpected opportunities for both companies and talent, opportunities for talent to take a moment and look around and reevaluate what their priorities are, and if they want to continue to do what they've been doing, if this is a time that they want to make a shift, if they're forced to make a shift, and to take advantage. I say they're kind of given the gift of time through all of this to take a moment. They don't have the same distractions happening around them, and to reevaluate what is it that I want to be doing, and unexpected opportunities for companies in locations across the country to have access to talent that, or the ear of talent that maybe they haven't before, and opportunities for them to look around and say, all right, who do we want in some of these roles? How do we want to move forward from here? Companies are pivoting, companies are open to different things, and the talent that they're able to access right now puts them in a different position if they're willing to engage in some non-traditional ways of recruitment. And I think that there's an eagerness for both sides to be a little bit more open-minded than maybe they have before, because we've all been forced to reevaluate and to think about how we move forward in a different way. Considering all things unexpected. This is just a time of considering things that you never would expect. I took this quote from an article that I read recently. Our children's involvement in school is the single largest tether keeping us here. If there's a hint that school won't resume in the fall for my kids, then the biggest reasons for us staying here, which are friendships and school activities, evaporates. And that is from a CEO of a company who's living in New York, who in the article talked about moving south, moving to a place that might be more comfortable, the Carolinas, Georgia, a place that might be warmer and more comfortable to them. And if the things that have been keeping them in a location for so long, they can find better quality of life. Taxes was an issue for this person as well. If they can consider other ways of life and things that might be better for their families, people are really considering that right now. According to a recent Harris poll, 1/3 of Americans are considering moving to less densely populations in the wake of the pandemic. I think Rebecca was right. If you look at the numbers of people who have relocated, they're not as great as maybe we would have expected them to be, but I think they're going to be. I came from Chicago to Indianapolis a year ago because my husband was recruited to a role, but my friends who are living in the city of Chicago and who were dying to be there and were willing to pay the money that they needed to be there through location because of lifestyle and talent opportunities are all looking elsewhere now. If they don't have family there, if they don't have anything that's keeping them there, they are looking at what other cities that maybe they wouldn't have anticipated in the past can they move to have a better quality of life and to enjoy some of the other things that are beyond, that are in addition to work or beyond just career focused. Talent is reprioritizing today and reassessing their career futures. There are people who thought that they had to be in some of the large cities with the big name companies and the big talent pools and have that to be their lives. Either they have taken the last few months and gone someplace a little bit quieter and logged in remotely and realized that they can do that, and are looking around and saying, is it really important for us to be in these places, and where else can I look around and still have a strong career future and also have a strong quality of life at the same time. Seriously considering unexpected job search, move, relocation, quality of life. It's really important for companies right now to hear what talent is saying and to ask them, why are they looking for something new and what are they looking for? Tapping into those priorities. Is it career growth or employment opportunities? Talent wants stable industries, and right now we think we know what that is, and we also know that can turn over. I recruited through the 2008-2009 downturn, and what was stable then is different than what's stable now, and with every downturn that changes. But you have industries right now that are growing, and that's music to talent's ears. Flexibility about remote and work hours right now is super key. I'm sure that many of you are seeing so much research that's coming out about the women's workforce and how this pandemic is affecting women who are career driven, but also have families, and that a lot of the caregiver piece falls on women, whether they're CEOs or whatever it is that they're doing, it just naturally does. And with their kids not being in school or those issues coming up, that the ability to have flexibility and work with a company who understands families and what the dynamic of virtual learning and how that's affecting the workforce right now, that's super important. And people want parents. Or future parents want companies who understand that. Proximity to family. People are saying, I want to be closer to my family. It's really hard for me to get to them. So if there is family nearby, or if people have roots already in Amarillo, that's a huge plus for people who are looking around and saying, that's a priority for me. And space, just as Sabrina's video and Rebecca echoed, being able to show that there is nightlife and there's activity and people getting together, but also that you can have space there. Space is at a premium right now. And as we move into winter months, I think that spike is just really gonna go up, because we don't have the outdoors necessarily in so many climates to be able to rely on. And so if you have space and you can offer housing and life with space for people to feel a little bit more spread out and to take advantage of that, that's huge. and cost of living, quality of life. I mean, those pieces are really big. And yes, salary is important, and talent still wants to be valued. And I agree with all of those things. And being able to also talk about the other values, if the salary isn't necessarily in alignment, what else can they benefit from? But also being able to educate talent on cost of living. I do a lot of that. A salary in New York is going to be a different salary than Amarillo, and educating talent that if they're making $100,000 in one place, that might not equate, but what does it equate to? And when you work through the numbers, what else does that bring you, and what other value are you getting from that? And so important for employers, to recruiters and whatnot, to be able to have some of these heart-to-heart conversations and real candid conversations with talent about why they're looking to make a move and what they're looking to make a move towards. And the other piece that we've touched on, how are you marketing your companies and roles and location? Recruitment marketing is huge. And what efforts are you putting into putting your companies out there and the roles that you're looking to fill? Sabrina, I think you have a poll you want to run here. So how are you currently reaching out to out of market talent? Posting and praying? So are you just posting up a job description and praying that you're going to get the right person coming through Indeed or LinkedIn, or even on your own website? Are you using an internal recruiter to help you go out and find talent and be proactive? A third-party recruiter, somebody external who you're engaging in the search to go out and reach out to their networks, or network referrals, your own network referrals, or employee referral program? Do you have a program where you are compensating your own employees for bringing in new talent?
We have about 6 votes so far, so 7. So we'll wait just one more second if y'all want to participate.
I would sing background music, but I promise you wouldn't want that.
Okay, awesome. So if you haven't voted in the poll, you can vote really quick on how you guys are currently doing that. Maybe some of the people who aren't voting actually aren't doing any of these other than the post and pray. So, okay, so I'll end that and we can look at the results.
So post and pray won by 75%. And then the next is employee referral or network, which is great. And an on-staff external recruiter, third-party recruiter is next. And then non-staff recruiter came in last. So there is a lot of talent out there. And if you, and this is your moment, and Rebecca spoke to this a little bit, to put your best foot forward. And even the top brand companies out there, household names, if they post and pray, they're not finding their all-star candidates that way. And I think it's important, and it's an important marketing tool, and you never know what you're going to find, and you should leave no stones unturned. But right now is a moment to keep this process human. Candidates want companies that want to be human about this process. And when you're kind of posting out there and you don't know who's on the other end, going through resumes and whatnot, it's part of an effort. But now is your moment to really connect with people, because talent wants to connect with companies. They want people who are going to hear them. They want people who are going to go beyond just sending them a form letter, rejection back. They want to get in front of you. And if you are looking to access talent that you haven't been able to access in the past, take this moment to take that opportunity and really connect with people. Just like we saw the video was awesome. And I love the video that Sabrina showed. Do you have videos or other multimedia engagement that you're putting on your own websites to give some insight into what it's like to work at your company, who the people are, what the culture is like, what your values are, and perhaps even investing in external communication, putting your leadership into positions for thought leadership with national articles or seminars or webinars like this, where people from outside of Amarillo can get a better understanding of the people and the companies, and more insight than just the name of a company and where it's at. So I would really recommend, if your companies can find a way, because internet research is everything when you're looking at new companies. And so many people that I speak to, when I talk to them about an opportunity, they say to me, the opportunity sounds great. I want to spend some time on their website, and I will get back to you to tell you if I want to be presented. So they are going to go to your website and they're going to look at you. And what are you telling them? This is a moment to capture talent. Are your employees your ambassadors? That's also really important, that your employees want to represent your company and empowering them to be ambassadors. I have one client, they have one piece on their website where every employee talks about what they like most about working at that company. And if somebody were to reach out to them, they're already poised to talk about that. So LinkedIn, people might say, just like they want a connection, they want to know somebody, they want a testimonial, they might reach out to somebody at your company, or they have a connection and they say, can you connect me with that person? Are they your ambassador? And are you giving them the tools to be your ambassador? I love that there are people out there that have employee referral programs, because that empowers employees to go out and help with your recruitment and be a mouthpiece for you. The use of recruiters, both internal and external. I can speak specifically to external recruiters. We have a broader network, and sometimes the opportunity to reach out to people and to be an extension of your public relations and to tell people about your company and this nugget in this place that they may not have otherwise considered. So many people say to me, a recruiter called me. That's how I ended up here, because a recruiter introduced me. And I have worked with locations that haven't been on talent's radars in the past, but the opportunity presents so much for themselves career-wise, for their company, or for their career growth, for their families and whatnot. Having somebody going out and reaching out to them for some of those specific conversations and to dig in and to answer their questions and share some testimonials is super important. Company leadership representation, involvement in national organizations or associations. Is your leadership out there representing your company? Are there places that maybe you could plug them in, even virtually, so that they can bring some visibility to your company? And there may be somebody on a call or somebody on a webinar that's saying, that company sounds awesome. I want to learn more about it and I want to work there. I want to connect with this person. So again, more recruitment marketing tactics that bring visibility to you and your company, to people who are plugged in so many different ways and they haven't been before. And local involvement with chamber or the economic development in ways that you can continue to extend what they're doing to raise the visibility of the location. Just like Rebecca and Sabrina have talked about, somebody saying, oh, I mean, look, I moved to Indianapolis, a suburb of Indianapolis last year. The first thing I did was get online and say, okay, what's life gonna be like for me there? And I started doing the research, and I was really excited to see how the location had invested in marketing their location, and the things that I learned as I started to do my own research as a person moving there. And so potential employees and their spouses or significant others or family members are going to do the same. So how are you helping to add to those efforts? I think that making sure that employers are plugged into that and that they are represented in some of those pieces your voices are important in this process. So converting candidates to employees, because it's great to get on the phone with these people and their potential and you're selling them. The candidate experience is essential. As I mentioned before, so many candidates are feeling super deflated. They're feeling really unengaged by this process and discouraged that they're never going to find an opportunity because competition is so high. And moving this process to technology, the job search process to technology, even though there's hopes that it would be efficient, the human process has really, the human feeling of it has really gone to a minimum. And candidates are really touched by a positive candidate experience. We talked about rolling out the red carpet. I have a client, a career coaching client, who grew up and lived in New York City, moved to Chicago, was in the Indianapolis area for a little while, and was trying to get back to the Chicagoland area to be closer to family, et cetera, and had an opportunity in a suburb about an hour away. And at the same time, an opportunity came up in Dubuque, Iowa. And Dubuque, Iowa is not close to a major airport. It's not close to where their families are. It was never on their radar. And he decided he was going to take the trip for the weekend. He had these 2 offers that he was juggling. He was going to take the trip with his wife for the weekend to see Dubuque. And he texted me on the way and he said, I feel like I'm going for no reason. We're never going to end up there. This isn't what we want, but the opportunity sounds so interesting. And he came back and he texted me and he said, can you please look at and review this offer because I'm signing the offer. Why was he signing the offer? What happened in that weekend? They absolutely rolled out the red carpet for him. People took him around. They showed him the town. It wasn't just about an interview. It wasn't just about lunch. They spent the weekend with them. They had a whole recruitment campaign team. It was realtors. It was people from the community. It was people who had recently relocated to the community. They had a whole lineup of people from morning until night, even during the pandemic. This was during the pandemic. And they were able, through social distancing, to still pull this off. And he felt like he was coming into a community of people that cared. And he said, we've never felt so welcome in our lives. And they signed immediately. And so he recently started there, and it's been a really positive experience for both he and his wife. Who would have ever thought they were going to end up in a place with 60,000 people? And so it just shows how much the candidate experience affects a candidate converting to an employee, and the efforts that you can put into making sure that your recruitment campaign team is up to par and that you guys are all out there working together to make this a welcoming experience for any out of market talent. The virtual connection is also really important. Obviously, that the energy of virtual recruiting or virtual conversation is really different. And so whatever you can do to engage people, even virtually, before you bring them out to town to see what it's like, to make them feel welcome and that you're engaging and developing rapport and those kinds of things, even through a virtual connection. Get away from the phone, get on video, see the person. It's really, really, really important to this process. So Rebecca talked about, what are other opportunities beyond me coming to this role? How are you going to invest in your talent beyond this opportunity? And what does a career future look like for relocated talent and their spouses potentially, or other family members? And so really thinking ahead, okay, when they come here, what else are they going to be able to take advantage of? Are we putting them on a career path? Is there a leadership path here? Do we provide other professional development? And do we have an internal network and or recruiter that can help a spouse land an opportunity as well? Because that really helps to seal the deal, and you're showing that you care about the person and you care about their future and you care about their life in Amarillo. I think it's really important to talk about the new remote workforce. It's a real thing. There's an article that I shared with Rebecca and Sabrina yesterday that came out about companies hiring head of remote workforces. It's going to be a real thing. And I know that there are a lot of companies out there that still feel resistant to it, even though we're temporarily doing it, which temporarily is turning into a long time. Some of the companies out there that I work for that are in some of the major cities are reluctant to commit to doing this in the long term. And then there are companies out there that are located in places that haven't typically had access to some of this talent that are saying, we're game. We're fine if we find talent that is remote, as long as they can commit to commuting to us once a month or on a quarterly basis or whatever it is. They want to be able to maybe up their game or change things in their companies, and having access to talent right now that maybe wouldn't have otherwise been tuned in. They're able to do that. And there are talent out there that are saying, we want to work remote. We know that we can do it. It's important to us. We still want to have access to growing our careers, and we want to do it. And it's becoming almost demand by talent. And so while companies want to feel like they're going to go back to having people internally, I think remote work eventually will be here to stay because talent will demand that it is, and it will become a benefit and another piece to lure talent in. And so please keep that on your radars, and please understand that even though it may not be something that you want to shift to permanently or commit to, that if you have it there as an opportunity, it's an excellent way to engage talent from other geographic areas and to maybe help your company achieve some of the goals that you want to achieve, that maybe you haven't had the right talent in place to do that. And it's an excellent way to also introduce your talent and introduce your geographic location, introduce Amarillo to people who might say, well, I'm not really sure if I want to bring my family there. I'm not really sure if I want to relocate, but you get them involved in a company and they're doing something great, and you're getting them there once a month or once every couple months, and they're looking around, they're saying, what? I'm ready to go. Let's make this happen. I want to move. And so it's really just another opportunity to introduce them slowly to that idea. So I think, we've covered a lot, putting yourself out there as a company and looking at other ways that you can market yourself and the searches that you have, and connecting with talent and being really human in the process in whatever way that you can do that really, really will help your efforts as you're trying to engage different talent and take advantage of this time.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We do have a question in the chat. So just wanted to give everyone's, the contact information is right here, so you can screenshot that if you'd like. One of the questions that we had in the chat, the people that we want to hire are actually not looking for a job right now. So how do we connect with happily employed talent as well? So people that are already in their job positions, how do we get them out of them? How do we take them and bring them onto our team?
I'm happy to speak to that. It's a lot of what I do actually as a recruiter. It just so happens we're in a moment right now where a lot of people are looking for jobs. But remember, there are a lot of people out there who you don't know that they're looking. And even though they're employed, doesn't mean that they aren't looking or they're not open to hearing about things. And so that's where those proactive efforts are super important. So whether it's an internal recruiter or you're reaching out directly, or your own personal network is reaching out, or an external recruiter, getting the ear of some of these talent and opening up some of that conversation is where it starts. And sometimes it doesn't happen right away. Sometimes you start to plant the seeds and you start to develop rapport, and sometimes it's about filling a role, and sometimes it's about a little bit of a longer term conversation that eventually they really like you and they want to circle back and they want to land something with you. But reaching out to passive candidates has always been what I've done as a recruiter, and always been the way that I've looked at the market, because I look at anybody could be looking and we don't know. Just because they're not advertising it, they could have an ear to the ground. And, I was on the phone yesterday with a new coaching client who's saying she's gainfully employed. Her company loves her. She's doing exceptionally well. And she said to me, my husband is going to go on his own in a couple of months, and I'm starting the process to figure out where I want to be. And you know what? I don't know if we want to stay in the DC area. We're starting to look at other locations, but you would never know because she's not actively replying to job posts and she's not actively putting her resume out there. But if you got on the phone with her and you had an opportunity that was in alignment with her, I bet you she'd listen. And she's an example of a lot of the people that I talk to.
So he says, how do you find them to begin the conversation?
In my opinion, it's reaching out to your network. Do you know anybody like this? It's reaching out to talent who may have the same kind of background as what you're looking for, and saying, who do you know? If this isn't, are you interested, or do you know anybody just like you who I should be contacting that is interested in something? Because the people who are not actively looking have their head down and they're trying to keep their jobs. But it doesn't mean that they won't take a phone call, or they won't have an ear to the ground for a conversation. And so it's really that proactive reaching out directly to talent, and reaching out to your network and asking your network, who do you know, but taking the time to engage an internal recruiter or an external recruiter to do that proactive searching and that proactive direct direct contact, I think is everything in this process.
Adding to that, Lisa, most of our DCI leads come from when we actually have staff post on their personal social media. When we post a job on our company social media or just on our company website, that's great. But once we have actually a real person share it, that's when we start to see all these passive candidates come out of the woodwork, and they're in that comfortable situation to ask a friend, hey, I saw you post this. Tell me more about the company, or are they open to remote work? What's it like working there? Because I think a lot of times candidates will see a job posting even and say, well, I'm not qualified, or I'm not going to take the 1 hour, 2 hours it takes to get everything ready and apply to this, and who knows if I'll ever hear back. If you could make it as easy as possible to say, here's a job open to different backgrounds, open in different locations, what have you, contact me with questions. Don't make the call to action, apply today, make the call to action, ask me about this job, or share this with someone you know.
Employee ambassadors are so important to the process. It's a great point.
Awesome. I was going to try to unmute people, but I feel like I have to do that one by one. So if you have other questions, you can put them in the chat. I don't know if you want to raise your hand. I can allow you to talk. If there's a raise hand button, I'll allow you to, I can select you and you can ask the question in real life if you'd like to do that. Because at the moment, I'm not.
I just want to add, I was just looking at the chat, and when I said, reaching out directly, LinkedIn is really an important tool. I didn't specifically say it, but LinkedIn is like, you're hard pressed to find people who are not on LinkedIn these days. And it's, especially for finding out of market talent, it's a great place to start.
I don't know if we have any other questions at the moment, but I really enjoy some of my favorite pieces about it is just the fact that like people are going to take notice of how they've been treated during this season. So like the ability to switch industry is actually probably much higher because of an industry that took a downturn and they were like, wow, I just was let go and I worked for that company for however long or whatnot. Like they're going to be open again to that upskilling and retraining for even just a different industry. So not even the industry that they're in. That's really interesting. And I love the fact that, if you do hire a remote worker, don't think that that's necessarily the end, that you could bring them back quarterly. And I told this to Lisa and Rebecca yesterday. I was like, you could invite them to the Christmas party. And then they come for the Christmas party and they're like, wow, Amarillo's pretty great. All my coworkers are really nice in real life and the schools are pretty great here and whatnot. So
and all their homes are bigger than mine.
That's true. We all have backyards and side yards and front yards. We have all the yard.
I have to say personally, that's kind of what happened with us. I mean, being in Indianapolis was not on my radar, and I was like super pregnant at the time, and like we weren't looking to move, but my husband came here and he felt really good about the team, and it was sort of he ran into somebody at a basketball game, and that's how he ended up here. And he felt really, I mean, we weren't looking to move in that moment, and he felt really good about the conversations and at home and connected, and they took us to dinner and talked about the different value, right, of living in a place like Indianapolis versus Chicago and all these different things. And at the end of the day, that experience is really what pulled us here.
Awesome. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat and I haven't seen any hands raised. At least I don't think so. So I'm just going to share the screen one last time, so that if you guys want to screenshot this, their emails are on there. Feel free to reach out to any of us for any questions at all. And I think that'll be it. We'll hang out for the next 6 minutes. If anybody else wants to ask a question or raise their hand, I can allow y'all to unmute yourself, but that's it for now. So thank you guys so much for coming today. If you have any other questions about what we can do future for like events like this and webinars, that website on the bottom right is where you can sign up for email updates. And I really, really appreciate Lisa and Rebecca for joining us virtually and sharing their experiences.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
We're getting a couple thank yous in the chat.
One last nugget for the folks that are still here. Sabrina, you mentioned reskilling. Something I saw a company do that I thought was really cool was they attended one of our community career fairs, virtual career fairs, that was all about reskilling. And then instead of saying, hey, all of you send your resumes and all of you set up an hour-long interview, they just said, hey, if you're interested to learn more, come to this webinar. And it was an open Q&A. And from there, it was a win for them because they were able to whittle down the talent pool. And it's a win for job seekers because they didn't have to really, they could still be passive and say, okay, I do want to learn more. Let me join this webinar. And that's a very, I think, easier ask of people right now than saying, apply and tell me why you want to make the transition from tourism to tech, which is what this actual training was. So I think as easy as possible, you can make it on the job seeker, the better.
All right, well, we had a couple people still on, but I don't think they're going to be asking any questions, but we did get a few thank yous. So we will end it there. So thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.